A horrible scenario. The Gulf Stream fails and Europe slides into an ice age. You see, the Gulf Stream is kind of a water heater for Northern Europe, and there are many researchers who keep warning that the Gulf Stream is slowing down. Maybe it will even come to a complete standstill sometime soon, triggered by climate change. A high-tension topic. Why is the Gulf Stream so important, and would it drying up result in a dangerous ice age? Welcome to Click Some Science and Fiction.
1, 2, 3.
You could describe the Gulf Stream as kind of a climate engine for Europe. This flowing system comes from the Caribbean, more specifically from the Bahamas. On its way, the water heats up to 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and its effects can be felt as far as up to the coast of Norway. Imagine the Gulf Stream as a huge circulation pump. On the one hand, warm tropical water flows across the Atlantic towards Europe, close to the surface. Water evaporates from the North Atlantic current, the salt concentration of the sea rises. In addition, the current cools down. Both factors cause the water to become denser and heavier. It sinks into the deep sea and returns to the southwest of the Atlantic as a cold, deep current. The Gulf Stream connects 4 of the 5 oceans. Research teams also refer to it as the global conveyor belt of ocean currents. The sinking of the water mainly happens in the northern latitudes of the Labrador and the Greenland Sea. 17 million cubic meters of water, over 600 million cubic feet per second, fall to a depth of up to 4,000 meters or 2.5 miles, the largest waterfall in the world between Greenland and Spitsbergen. In fact, 15 times more water than all the rivers in the world combined. Wow! The sinking of the water creates a suction that pulls the Gulf Stream towards Europe. Central and Northern Europe owe it to the Gulf Stream that mild temperatures prevail, especially in winter. There are estimates that it would be up to 10 degrees colder on average without it in Northern and Northwestern Europe. Then the landscape would look more like in Canada, barren and covered in ice instead of green meadows and forests. For example, the mouth of the Elbe would probably be iced up for months like Hudson Bay. The crucial question is, to what extent does climate change affect the Gulf Stream, and is there a risk that it will completely break off? This is exactly the question that research teams have been investigating since the 1980s. Because, as you can imagine, the answer to that may be crucial to life on Earth. There are many different model calculations, but one thing is for sure. Climate change has an impact on the Gulf Stream. The only thing that is to be discussed is how fatal the consequences will be. In previous analyses, the current could be mitigated by no more than 20%, even if the carbon dioxide concentration doubled compared to pre-industrial times. The so-called Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC, is therefore quite stable, at least that's the assumption. Other recent studies, however, say the opposite. According to them, the giant currents could even break off completely if the CO2 amount doubles. There are several factors of climate change that could weaken and disable the Gulf Stream. On the one hand, the rising global temperature heats the water. It gets lighter, the flow system loses power, and less warm water reaches Northern Europe. The melting of the poles and the Greenland ice makes the water lighter in the end. Because of this, the salt content of seawater decreases. Another factor is the thawing of permafrost. Siberian rivers pour more fresh water into the northern seas. In comparison to the ice melt, this is only a small factor. Climate research teams closely monitor the Gulf Stream. One thing is certain: over the past 100 years it has warmed up by about 1.2 degrees, the Atlantic by 0.4. You can see this through data and model simulations from 1900 to 2008. But there are also some experts who do not ascribe such a significant role to the Gulf Stream. They think the influence of the Gulf Stream is overestimated. Germany would cool off by an average of 1 to 2 degrees in a complete collapse. And further, even if the Gulf Stream in the worst case came to a complete standstill, we would probably avoid a Siberian winter, because global warming would compensate for this effect again. Nevertheless, a paralyzed Gulf Stream in Iceland and Scandinavia would have far more serious consequences. The icy cover would increase. Temperatures in winter will drop by up to 7 degrees. This would impair the fishery and consequently also the regional climate in many parts of the world would be influenced. For example, in Central and South America, the rain belt would shift southwards over the tropical Atlantic. But even on the American East Coast, the sea level would rise as well as the number of hurricanes. Either way, the changes in the Gulf Stream seem to have significant consequences. Which ones exactly we will probably have to see in future. If you want to be the first to hear about the Gulf Stream and all other topics, subscribe to our channel. If you want to find out about the end of the universe, click right here and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Never miss one of our 3 new videos every week right here on ClickSum. Until then, stay tuned and see you soon.